Over the last 10 years, robot vacuum cleaners have gone from expensive novelty gadget to affordable cleaning tool, and chances are, if you don't own one yourself, you most likely know someone who does. Advancements in robot technology mean that robot vacuum cleaners can now do more to help in your home than ever before, with less need for you to get involved. But at the top end of the robot vacuum cleaner market, the premium models are still expensive, like the DEEBOT X1 OMNI by ECOVACS. But is it worth its premium price tag? In this video, I'll aim to answer that question. Disclaimer, ECOVACS sent me this robot at no cost to myself, but they have no editorial control over this video. All thoughts and opinions are entirely my own. Okay, let's get into it. The DEEBOT X1 OMNI comes in a massive box because this is a pretty massive piece of tech. The box weighs around 54 pounds or 25 kilos, so something to keep in mind when you're receiving and setting this item up if you think you'd need help lifting out and positioning a base station that takes up a considerable amount of that overall weight. You might want to ask for some help from a friend or family member. Setting up is easy though, with ECOVACS providing you everything you need to get going. Position the base station in a suitable place in your home. The instructions advise you to keep a reasonable amount of distance to each side of the base station. I'll be honest, we've not been able to do that, and the vacuum hasn't had any issues in finding its way home so far. Remove all packaging, fill up the 4-litre clean water tank with water and a little bit of floor cleaning solution. ECOVACS do sell their own, although I've used store-bought and it seems to be working just fine. Feels like a bit of a missed opportunity for ECOVACS here. I'd have thought they would have included a sample bottle of their own product to get you started, but they don't in the regular box, so you'll need to ensure you've got something suitable. Unpack the vacuum itself, attach the brushes, which are colour-coded for left and right, although I'm not sure whether it matters if you put them the other way around or not, but don't attach the mops just yet. Then place the vacuum in its base station to allow it to charge, and while it's doing that, you can download the ECOVACS app to your iPhone or Android device. Follow the on-screen instructions to get this set up and connected to your home's Wi-Fi. Mapping is a crucial part of the robot vacuum experience. Just like if you hired a human cleaner to come and clean your home, the first thing you need to do is show the robot where everything is, and robot vacuums will of course go around your home by themselves to figure this out. My previous experience of mapping is that it's a long process. The vacuum I've owned for the past 6 months literally crawls every inch of our house's footprint, taking about 40 minutes to draw an accurate map of the downstairs of our home. The DEEBOT X1 OMNI did the same thing in about 4 minutes. In fact, it was so quick, I thought I'd messed up and was about to send it off again when I realised that an accurate map had been generated. The reason for this is the included navigation technology in this robot, which is way more advanced than anything I've experienced before. And see, this is where I think it's important to understand the value proposition of a more expensive robot. If you flip the robot on its back and compare the bottom of it with a budget robot vacuum, ignore the mop pads, the basics of the robot vacuum all look very similar. They both have wheels, brushes, sensors, and chances are there's not a massive amount of difference between those being used here and those being used on a budget robot. But where this robot stands head and shoulders over the others is its brains. When you set the robot off to map, which you can do by either pressing a button in the app or by using its onboard voice assistant, more on that in a moment, the robot will leave its base station, then confidently whoosh off to each room of the floor of your home that it's on. Kind of pauses in each room, has a little look around before moving on to the next one, and in just a few minutes its direct time-of-flight navigation technology helps it to build a scarily accurate 3D map of your home. It can even tell if it's in a bathroom or a kitchen or a living room based off of the fixtures that it sees when it moves around, which is not only clever, it's useful as it can then adjust cleaning accordingly. The app can store up to 3 maps, so if you're like us and you've got 2 floors in your home, you can leave the base station set up in one location and carry the robot upstairs when you want it to clean upstairs, and it will draw a separate map. It will simply have a starting point and return to that point when it's done cleaning. You then take it back to its base station to empty and charge. There's a reason why that base station is so heavy. As well as charging your robot, it will also automatically empty its dustbin at the end of a cleaning session, empty the robot's dirty water reservoir, refill the robot's clean water tank, and use clean water to keep the mop pad cleaning section of the base station itself clean. The base station is a large piece of hardware, no doubt, but the design is excellent, very sleek and minimalist. ECOVACS partnered with Jacob Jensen Design on both the robot and the base station, and when you browse around their website, the influence is clear, and I think that both look really good. The water tanks are easy to remove and put back. There's a nice little middle tray containing a cleaning brush for the base station and replacement mop pads. It's all very well thought out. My only complaint here is that the dust from the robot is sucked out and put into a vacuum bag that's contained in this pull-out drawer, and I don't love that in 2022. I'm having to now think about buying vacuum bags for the first time in my life. A bagless solution here would have been amazing, although I'm guessing that bags are easier and more hygienic. So I guess the most important question when it comes to a robot vacuum is how does it clean? And the answer with the DEEBOT X1 OMNI is exceptionally well. The robot knows what kind of clean you'd like it to perform based on whether you leave the mop pads attached or not. Again, a negative of this model compared to some others is that the pads can't be lifted up by the robot. They're either on or they're off. So if you've got them attached and the robot goes across your hard floors vacuuming and mopping, it will then stop as soon as it reaches a carpeted area, so as not to rub wet mop pads across your carpet. This is obviously a good thing and the feature works really well, but it does mean that you can end up creating no-go zones in your home if, for example, a part of your hard floor is situated on the other side of a carpeted area. When cleaning, the robot will start around the edges of the room, then work its way inwards. The dual brushes do give this an advantage over robots with single brushes in my opinion, as dirt gets volleyed into the robot's path rather than pinged across to the other side of the room, and the particle detection tech on board this robot also means that if it spots items like Rice Krispies for example, it will slow the brushes down, ramp up the suction and clean the area multiple times, meaning it's much more likely for the clean to be successful. The robot has multiple suction powers and can automatically up the power when it detects carpet, or you can set a defined power for each room of your house if you wish. Overall, the vacuum can manage up to 5,000 pascals of suction power, so more than enough for both hard floors and thick carpets. You can really see the navigation technology in effect when this vacuum gets to work. Our previous RoboVax method of navigating was more of a fumble around until I bump into something, then remember where that thing is, whereas this robot seems to have much more visual capability. This might sound silly, but this robot moves around with confidence. ECOVACS claim that thanks to its AV3D navigation tech, it can identify around 30 household items and then avoid them, things like socks and cables. I haven't been able to test all of them, but as you can see in the footage here, when faced with the power cable for our tower fan, the robot knows not to come too close and cleans around it. Our old vacuum would have trundled right over it. Not too much of an issue with a thicker cable, but for smaller cables that could be a real problem, so I love that this robot can handle household items with ease. I'm not one for hugely scientific testing. It's pretty rare that our floor is covered in copious amounts of food and mud, although to be fair we don't have kids or pets, but I did try to test the limits of the robot where I could. So when I emptied our bins on an especially rainy day recently, I deliberately walked in as much mud from outside as I possibly could, and even grabbed some soil from one of our plants and sprinkled that across the floor as well. And for good measure, I deliberately poured some ketchup and cream on the floor, then rubbed them in and let it all dry to make the floor nice and sticky. I then had the vacuum clean the room, and as you can see, it did a really good job of it. All the dried mud was handled with ease, and the mop removed any stickiness from the ketchup and cream. Much of that is down to the fact that the mopping function of this vacuum isn't a gimmick, it genuinely works really well. The mops rotate at 180 RPM with 6 newtons of downward pressure. Again, lots of statistics there. My real world experience is that the floors are as clean, if not cleaner, than when I get the manual mop out, but of course without me having to actually do anything. In the days before our first robot vacuum, my wife and I were great at vacuuming our floors, not as good at mopping them as regularly as we should, so it's awesome that we can now have the floors mopped as frequently as we like. When the robot returns to the base station after mopping, the base station will swap out the dirty water for clean water, but will also clean the mopping pads and even dry them for a few hours afterwards, meaning less chance of bacteria forming, less chance of the base station getting smelly. Upstairs in our home, which is entirely carpet with the exception of our bathroom and ensuite, the robot handled cleaning just as successfully as it did downstairs, making easy work of mapping the floor and travelling to the various rooms of the house. seems to handle hair very well. I have had to remove a few minor tangles from the brush bar, although to be fair, the only vacuum I've owned that genuinely has zero issues with hair is our Dyson V15 with its screw brush attachment. This isn't completely tangle free, but it's not getting clogged up to the point where I'd consider it to be an issue. You can operate the X1 OMNI using your voice thanks to its Yeeco voice assistant, and it works really well. Simply say, "OK Yeeco," and wait for your vacuum to respond that it's listening, then issue a command. Some of these commands are useful, others not so much, but I especially like the ability to be able to say things like "come clean here," where the robot will use its microphone and navigation technology to figure out where you are, come over to you and begin cleaning. "OK Yeeco. Come clean here."
Okay, let me check where you are. You will stay where you are for a while.
Great if you've just spilled something, you've maybe got your hands full and you want a quicker way of having the robot clean it than having to get your phone out and jump into the app. It's compatible with Alexa and Google, and even Siri to a degree, as you can create Siri shortcuts. You can also make use of the robot's front-facing cameras to watch live video as the robot is moving around, which is both a nice gimmick and a handy feature if you're away from home, for example, and want to check into a live view of your house. The robot announces when you log in to access the cameras, which is good from a privacy perspective, and you can even use a voice call feature to have a conversation with someone near the robot. So, should you buy one? Value is always going to be a tricky discussion topic when talking about a robot that costs over $1,000. I view this in the same way that I would view a premium car. You could, for example, buy a tricked out luxury car, or you could buy a car from a budget manufacturer. Both vehicles would get you from A to B, and both would provide a range of features. But the luxury car would probably offer more features than the budget one, and would probably perform many of those features better than the budget one, and would in general look and feel nicer than the budget one. If you're okay with paying for premium, then I guess the question of value is about whether this can improve your life or not. And for a lot of people, I think this can. Only you know how important clean floors are to you and your home, and only you know how much you'd be willing to pay to have the job of keeping your floors clean handled almost entirely by a robot. In terms of daily maintenance, you're going to have to attach or remove the mop pads depending on what you want the robot to do, but that's literally a case of pulling them off or snapping them back on. You'll want to keep the water tanks fresh every few days, even if you're not fully utilising them. It's still water, so I think good practice to not have dirty or clean water sitting there for too long. Every once in a while, you'll need to give the base station itself a little clean, and you'll have to empty and replace the vacuum bag probably once a month or so. Beyond that, the robot handles everything else and does so to an exceptionally high quality. Yes, I would like to see some improvements in future models. A bagless dustbin in the base station itself would be great, and mop pads that automatically lift out of the way to allow it to clean carpets and floors in one session would be awesome. But pretty much everything else has been thought of here, and the DEEBOT X1 OMNI has absolutely cemented itself as our new vacuum robot cleaner. So there you are, my thoughts on the exceptional DEEBOT X1 OMNI by ECOVACS. It isn't cheap, but this top-of-the-range vacuum packs a huge amount of technology in for the price and really can deliver in terms of keeping your floors clean and hygienic. What do you think? Would you consider one? If not, why not? Drop me a comment and let's talk about it. And as ever, if you found this video useful, do please consider leaving me a like and subscribing to my channel for more content like this in the future. See you on the next video.